What's good, man?
Yeah.
Y'all right?
Yeah.
Y'all make me feel good, man. Y'all don't clap for me. I'm 37. I was born in 1974. I grew up loving just music in general, but especially back then, this new form of it called hip hop that nobody knew nothing about. Nobody knew anything. And what I mean in terms of production and in terms of the way that we made records, there was no rules. And this was like a new baby being born. So it was like we could basically do whatever we wanted and learn about the culture that way. It was through the culture of hip hop that I was listening to all these records and started kind of trying to figure out how they made the records. And that was the thing about digging. It wasn't one form or one genre of music. I would listen to anything. We just had to learn on our own and figure out records on our own and figure out equipment on our own. I would just go read, and I would just read. I started, buying magazines back then. I remember mixing, like Electronic Musician was like so small back then. But I would buy these magazines and just read. And then they would have an article on MIDI, and that's how I taught myself MIDI. Or any word in there I didn't understand, I would go look it up, and that would lead me to another book, and that would lead me to another book. So it was really self-education. If I press split, that puts the filters at the input of the output. Okay, yeah, like I'm figuring out and saying stuff in my head from the book while I'm learning. Because there's a difference between being in a classroom and actually being in that hot seat getting paid, and the artist only has this amount of time. So I kind of worked out my kinks and my nervousness with my own group, which was a super blessing. I was on staff as an engineer, and I was just happy to be in New York. My whole thing was just get me to New York, and I'll hustle my own side sessions as long as I know I got a check coming every week. I had a kid. The key was that I could see that this Pro Tools thing was about to like hit the city hard. That was a key for me at that point, was to figure out Pro Tools. This was like some specialty thing back then. It was like $75 an hour to sit and go like this. Like there's someone at the desk engineering, and I'm basically like the tape op. It was a beautiful thing to have knowledge and have worked in that old way, but to also see the ushering in of the way that we work now. What got me further with the whole Rockefeller thing was the fact that I would record stuff, but then if Gleek was saying a verse, me and him were so cool, I'd be like, yo, what are you doing? That's garbage. Like, come here. Like, you need to rewrite this, take this word out, da-da-da. And it was like I started wearing a couple hats at the same time. Jay, Dave, and Juan, who went in on the studio, basically looked at me like, okay, this is your domain. You run this. So we just took what we had and consolidated everything. Everybody ran whatever thing that they did well. In order for me to teach you strategy, how to play chess, you have to know how to move the pieces. That's what learning equipment is. You should learn equipment so that the equipment is not even in your mind. The equipment is for you to facilitate to do something. I need this to do this. Okay, this compressor does this well. You shouldn't even have to think about it. Right. Once you learn those things that it's supposed to do, then you can start getting into the experimentation of what it's not supposed to do or what it wasn't designed for. And that's another part of engineering that comes with comfort and comes with experimentation. That's also part of it that I feel is like lost a little bit with having this complete access to everything. When you have less, you completely master the things that you do have. But there's only certain plugins that I could say like, oh, I mastered this plugin the way I could blindly work in a 3000 or a SP1200 or ASR. Like I mastered those pieces of equipment because it's all I had. Dre put the bottom and the clarity and depth like all together. Like when I'm listening to 2001, I'm like, oh, he gets, whoever's doing this is like, he gets it. Because Tribe stuff was still, Tribe is coming from that mono, like we were dealing with SP1200s and 950s, right? The Kai 950, which everything came out mono. Right? Speakers are here. You can pan from left to right, but with reverb, you can also move a sound this way and this way. My kicks gotta be harder, my snares gotta be harder than everybody. And that was really my main thing. So the SSL just became my baby. Like I love that board. I love how things work. I love to take things apart, And I love to learn. Like I constantly read. Reading, I think, is the most important thing.
How do you feel at this point, 10 years later, about your work on the Blueprint and working with, you know, Justin, Kanye at the point they was at, stuff like that?
It was the most incredible thing because Kanye really just walked in with a CD with 9 beats on it. It wasn't a, we're going to start working on the Blueprint on this Friday. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. Like Kanye walked in like, yo, I got some heat. Ye gave us that CD on a Friday. We had like 7 songs done by Monday for that album because it was just Jay didn't leave. It was that type of environment where the bar was already there, just added whatever, and I think the only thing we added after those couple of days was like the Trackmaster song and the Eminem song. Big had like his joints was already submitted. Jay did them joints. It was that quick. The majority of the sessions for Blueprint was us listening to the Blueprint.
Wow.
Yeah.